Hello and welcome everyone. In this video, I will be showing you how to work with the new sync types in Fish Networking version 4.0 and above. So a lot of people got confused when this update was released because there were some changes to how you declare and use sync vars and sync types like sync lists, sync dictionaries, sync hash sets, etc. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to use the new way of writing them and how to properly avoid these errors, okay? So as per usual, I have a very simple scene with a network manager, a network HUD script, a player spawner that spawns a player prefab that simply consists of a sphere and a piece of text, which we're going to use to display our player's health. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a script I created called player. And as you can see, it is simply an empty script with a single serialized field called health text. So before, when we needed to use something like a sync var, for example, to synchronize the health between different clients, what we would do is we would go ahead and use a sync var attribute with a simple just field, like let's say public int health, something like this. But you might notice before you even go inside of Unity in your IDE of choice, if you hover over the attribute, you will see that it has been deprecated. So what does this mean actually? If we go inside of Unity now, you'll see that there is a compile time error telling you that the sync type, in this case the sync var, called health on the player implements sync var or sync object. These attributes are no longer supported as of version 4. This might be a roadblock, especially to people that are just starting to learn. So how do we fix this? The fix is very simple. We go inside our IDE. Let's go ahead and remove the attribute. And then I'm going to create a new sync var. This time it is a generic type and not an attribute. Give it the type int and give it a name. Okay, you might also want to initialize it. So we just call equals new and maybe give it something like 100. This right here should work okay, but if we go inside of Unity, we'll get another error telling us that the player attribute, the health field must be either decorated with the allow mutable sync type attribute or marked as read-only. Any field marked as read-only in C# can only be mutated once, and that is during initialization, or basically it cannot be mutated after initialization. And so to fix this, if you need your sync var to be displayed in the inspector, you go to your IDE or to your editor of choice and just go ahead and add the allow mutable sync type attribute. This attribute will tell Fish Networking that it is okay to make this type not read only, because it is usually a good idea to not mutate the value itself after initialization, okay? But in this case, since you need to display it in the inspector, for example, we use this attribute. And now once we go inside of Unity, you'll see that it is compiling and that our errors are gone. Now, if you go to your player, you can see that we have a drop-down fold-out with a field called health and a bunch of properties. So the first two, you should never interact with them because they are handled by Fish Networking. But you can see right here that you have a value which is set to 100 by default, which is the value we set to the initial value parameter when constructing our sync var, okay? So that's pretty much it for new sync vars. So how do we actually mutate them? So to mutate them, of course, as you might know, you cannot change the value of a sync var, both in the old versions of Fish Networking and in the new ones as well, outside of a server RPC, okay? So how do we do this? Let's go down here and have a private void update. I'm going to do an is owner check. So basically, if I'm not the owner, let's exit this function. But if I am, I'm going to go down here and say, I'm checking if the the space key was pressed this frame. I'm going to call a method that I'm going to name server set health maybe let's say something like -10. And let's go down here and actually create this RPC. And as you can see, I use the server RPC attribute, which is provided by Fish Networking. I decorate this method with it, called server set health. And now I just say integer value, which is going to be the new value of our health. But since I would like to change it and make the change visible, let's go ahead and say, rename it to something like set health relative, which just subtracts the, or as the value that we pass in. Let's go and say, or maybe just delta to make it more clear. And down here, I'm just going to say health. Before, we would use health equals delta, but since the new type is a sync var and not just a plain integer, we need to say health dot value plus equal delta. So as you can see, the changes are very minute. They are not really something massive. If you have a big project, this could disturb it, but it is just a matter of search and replace. But as you can see, things remain pretty much the same. Now let's go ahead inside our update function. I'm going to go ahead and say health text dot text, actually outside the is owner check to make it so it is visible for all the other players. I'm going to say health text dot text equals, let's go ahead and say just health dot value dot toString, just like this. And if I go into Unity now, it did compile successfully. And let's go and assign our health text. Oh yeah, I used an incorrect type, sorry. So tmb text and go inside of Unity. Now, when I drag this text, it is assigned correctly. And if I go to my scene, enter play mode, let's start a server and a client. And if I press the space, you can see that my health is decreasing. Now let's actually test this with 2 players, for example. Okay, let's enter play mode. Inside the editor, I'm going to start both a server and a client. And inside the build, I'm going to start just a client. Okay, now on the client here, which is the object on the right, if I press space, you can see that the health is decreasing and it is being synchronized, and same thing will happen if I go to the server, for example, and change this. You can see that the values are synchronized correctly. So that's pretty much it for the new Sync Vars. When it comes to other sync types, the changes are pretty much similar. So for example, instead of having something like public sync lists and scores, you do something like this, which is the new sync type. And if we go inside of Unity, you will see that you will get the error. The sync type must be read-only or with allow mutable sync type attribute. So you just go ahead and either make it read-only or allow the sync type to be mutable. And as you can see, we'll see that we have our collection in which we can add items and mutate them. And also to change it, you go down here to your server RPC, whatever it may be. You just say scores, for example, let's add, and changes inside this RPC done to the sync list will be synchronized across the network automatically. Okay, so this was just a quick video to demonstrate these changes because a lot of people in the community get confused by this change sometimes, but it is in reality very simple and something elegant in my opinion, because it removes some of the magic of Sync Vars and makes things more explicit. And as we know, explicit is always, or most of the time, better than implicit. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider liking the video and subscribing, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.